Initiating podcast download. Prepare yourself. Put on your spandex. Lace up your boots. Wrap your wrists. Hide your razor blade. Head to gorilla position. Grease up your hair. Apply baby oil. Okay, apply more baby oil. Get into gimmick. Keep your ears open and your mouth shut. Have fun and be safe out there, brother. Welcome to Iron on Wrestling. Now your host, Gregory Iron.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Iron on Wrestling. This is episode 6. I am Gregory Iron.
Excuse me, pardon the interruption.
Whoa, wait a minute. Who is that? Oh, you're not Aaron.
No, absolutely not.
Who are you?
I'm your buddy. I'm Sarah Snyder.
Oh, yeah, that is my buddy, Sarah Snyder. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Greg?
Good. I have to act like I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised because we've just been spending our evening creating my yearly random, obscure Halloween costume, wrestling-related Halloween costume, which you've now been a part of for the past 2 years.
I have, and it's been a pleasure.
Has it?
For the most part.
Or has it been a burden?
No, not a burden at all.
Okay, so basically, for those of you that follow me on social media, you've probably noticed that since 2016, I've been dressing as something dumb for Halloween, wrestling-related that I figured not many people would understand or care about. It started with Willie Nelson, who sung the national anthem at WrestleMania 7, and he wore a bunch of stupid merchandise. He was wearing like a child's belt and Bret Hart sunglasses and a Hulk Hogan bandana and a WrestleMania 7 shirt. And I don't know, I saw him on the pay-per-view in 2016, like a few days before for Halloween, the Mary that I was dating at the time. As I was watching, I noticed that I had the same jeans, and I knew I had the WrestleMania 7 shirt because I have all those stupid vintage tees. And I just looked at her and said, I think I'm going to dress as Willie Nelson at WrestleMania 7. She just looked at me like I'm an insane person, which I am. Mm-hmm. And then I posted the photos on the internet, and it got a lot of likes and a lot of buzz. So I figured, well, now I guess I'm committed to this every year. So that the next year I was Giant Gonzalez, and I got a custom-made bodysuit. Did you ever see Giant Gonzalez, Sarah?
I did not see that one.
Do you remember my suit? Did you see it?
No.
Okay. So it's like he wore like a I'll show you when we're done. He was like 7'6", and he wore a giant naked airbrushed man bodysuit.
Oh, that's okay. Yes,
yeah.
I have seen
Okay, yeah.
Unfortunately.
So they just put like hair over his balls on the costume and stuff, and it was just really weird. So I figured it makes sense since I'm 5'4" that I should be the 7'6" Giant Gonzalez, and
Absolutely.
I posed with a little child as the Undertaker, a child that I have no relation to. I literally searched the internet because, again, I'm always scrambling to put these costumes together, so I literally got a fan to say, hey, you can use my child.
You just searched the internet for a child to rent.
It seems like very suspicious when you're posting on Craigslist back page, like looking for a child. You know, you probably shouldn't do that and be more specific.
No, you should not do that.
So that's just a word of advice for anybody who's as psychotic as me.
How did it feel to see Willie Nelson and all this ridiculous stuff and then realize, wait, I have all of this?
Yeah, sad. Actually, well, I didn't have the belt or the sunglasses, but I had the bandana and the shirt and the jeans. And I think the jeans are what sold it for me because I was like, I don't know why I have the same shitty jeans that Willie Nelson had at WrestleMania 7. So I was like, if I could just get the foam belt and the sunglasses, I think this is going to be a thing.
I think I've seen you wear jeans once. Maybe?
I don't wear jeans anymore. That's actually I always felt like this sounds weird, but I always feel like jeans never suited my style. I don't know if that makes sense. And so like
they're like the most universal piece of clothing.
They are very universal, Sarah, but I started thinking to myself because it doesn't work because I wear all these like shitty old shirts and like these like I wear like skater shoes and stuff, so I'm like what kind of pants works? But also I hate wearing pants because I started wearing like short shorts, and like the majority of the time like I'm in fucking spandex. So like my brother Sean, when I first met him 2 years ago, for those of you who don't know, I met my half brother Sean, my youngest brother, for the first time like 2 years ago. That's a long story for another day. But we were hanging out and went to the mall, and he shops at Zoomies all the time, the skateboarder store.
Mm-hmm.
And I rarely go in there and look at anything. And I saw the skateboarder pants with like, they look like Dickies on top, but then like the joggers on the bottom. I'm like, my God, this is everything. Because like I could wear these like for business, for pleasure. Like it's sort of pants, but they're really not because they're still joggers. So it's like, it really changed my life. So no more jeans for Greg Iron.
Okay, fair enough.
That's it. So that was my first 2 years of Halloween costumes. So we had Willie Nelson, Giant Gonzalez, but then you come into play.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that you are super creative and you love making costumes and masks. Is that right?
I do.
Tell me about that. How did that get started?
I don't know. Just started out of boredom and wanting to make something, and then Halloween is always fun. So I guess the culmination of all those things. I've been making paper mache masks and sculpting, and I just finished my first silicone mask recently. But making costumes is really fun. And sometimes you ask me to do some crazy stuff, which it's kind of cool to make it come together out of thin air.
I do come up with some zany stuff. But so what would you say first inspired you to be like, I'm going to start making these masks? Like what did you see that was like, I want to make stuff like that?
Oh, probably just an assortment of scary movies with really creepy stuff. I remember when I was a kid, like very young, there's this movie called Summer School.
Yeah.
And there's that scene where the kids, like, they make all this crazy makeup. There's like the girl or the guy, I can't remember, with a ruler shoved in their mouth.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing that, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
How? There's no way that person fit a ruler in their mouth.
Right.
So I think that's kind of like, movies definitely started it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then actually, so I think what inspired me to get you to help me was like, I think you had already started the process of the Predator mask. I could be wrong. Like
I might have. It took me like a year to finish.
Yeah. So I'll post some of it on the social media. But like, yeah, you made this incredible Predator mask / outfit for this Comic-Con this year. Tell me about that.
It was for this convention called Mask Fest.
Okay.
It's part of the Horror Hound convention, which happens in Cincinnati and Indianapolis.
Yeah.
But I made this goal for myself of finishing this mask by Mask Fest so I could wear it there and show it off to all these people that I looked up to, and it worked out. So
yeah, and you got a lot of attention from it, and like I don't know,
did.
you might get like some sort of job based off of your creativity and the amount of work and time you put into it, huh?
I did get a job offer while I was there.
Yeah. From
the same company who made the most recent Luchasaurus mask.
Ah, there you go. That's pretty awesome. So what you're saying is what you do is pretty legit.
It is.
Yeah, and so like now, you know, we've got this friendship based on our mutual love of lifting. You know, so we sort of knew each other through old wrestling, which Marion Fontaine runs every year, and it's one of the best events of the year. But we really got close when we started lifting together, and then I was like, all right, you're making all this creative shit. Like, I need to get Sarah to help me to make my stupid costumes every year. So last year, for our first costume, we did Suburban Commando, Hulk Hogan as Shep Ramsey, and you were...
Yeah, guess who I was, everybody.
You, which makes it funnier, you're Christopher Lloyd, but specifically Christopher Lloyd in the scene where he is frozen. When they're traveling in the car together, they go in the bank. The bad guys have like this freeze gun, and Christopher Lloyd gets frozen, and we recreated that scene. Mm-hmm. And you did.
I was frozen today.
Yes, there it is. See, that's the line. And it was. I thought it was a really good outfit. Everyone had a lot of good things to say about it last year, so I figured we got to do it again this year. And so, if you're listening to this now, you probably already see the random, obscure wrestling-related Halloween costume. This year was Kane and Katie Vick from the gross, disgusting,
god-awful,
lewd angle from 2002 where Kane supposedly murdered his girlfriend / friend that he liked, but they weren't really girlfriend, boyfriend. Like we weren't really made clear about the situation, but basically Triple H accuses Kane of murdering his friend / girlfriend, maybe Katie Vick, and she got really drunk, and He then also accuses him of maybe potentially after the fact.
We'll just skip that part.
He might have sort of possibly made sweet love to her.
Posthumously.
Yeah.
Posthumously?
Maybe after her life had tragically ended. So we recreated that. And
Not that part. No.
Not that part specifically. No, we don't want to be too grotesque. We're just friends, Sarah. Calm down. And so we recreated that for this year. And so you could check that out on my social media and, of course, the @IronOnWrestling social media, which, by the way, I haven't even plugged that yet. Go follow us on Instagram and Twitter and like us on Facebook. And then, obviously you've downloaded this podcast and you're listening to it now, but for future references, you can download us on iTunes and all other podcasting platforms. And if you download us on iTunes, make sure to leave a 5-star review, leave a comment, maybe a stupid comment. If it's a really stupid comment and I laugh, maybe I'll send you a free shirt. I don't know. It helps raise the podcast standings. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. The more comments and the more 5-star reviews we get, the higher we go up in the rankings and more people know that we exist. So that's very important. But today on the podcast, something we're going to talk about is, first and foremost, we're going to talk about, since it's the Halloween season, creepy, scary, terrifying direct messages that I've received, and maybe some that maybe Sarah's got in her DMs. I mean, she's a girl, she might get some creepy stuff every now and then. But also, stick around because we have an interview that I did a few weeks back. One of my first interviews, actually, when I first got this equipment, finally seeing the light of day with Kody Lane, who's been just a standout on the independent circuit for the past couple years now. He's trained by ACH, a.k.a. Jordan Myles, who is making a lot of news right now on the internet as far as professional wrestling goes, not for the best reasons, but we're not going to delve into that. The point is, ACH is a very talented performer, and now Kody Lane is a very talented performer, and I think he's going to blow up sooner rather than later, so we're going to talk about him today. And, so let's delve into it. Creepy, scary, spooky direct messages. Now, this is something as a wrestler that I guess, I don't know how many male wrestlers experience this, but I know a lot of female wrestlers experience this. As a female, Sarah, as an attractive female on the internet, have you ever gotten creepy direct messages? Or if you haven't gotten creepy direct messages, I'm sure you've been creepily hit on by men in public, and they've said some pretty wild and crazy things. Huh?
There was, I haven't gotten a lot of DMs because I've been committed relationship for a long time. I've been married for a few years, and so people don't really bother me.
And that's surprising because you'd think they'd be more apt to just, not care and just reach out.
People don't care.
Yeah.
That's for sure. There was one guy who totally had no regard for, my relationship.
Okay.
So I worked with this gentleman, and that's a stretch. I'm calling him a gentleman. I worked with this guy. As I was driving home after my last day of work, I had left this place, and I was driving home. I get a notification that this person has sent me a message, and it is like a novel. And he's basically telling me that he's in love with me, and that, I basically caused him to have a panic attack because, I don't know, it's a bunch of bullshit. But anyway, I was like, hey, don't do this.
Yeah.
We're not friends anymore. You just made it weird. Sorry.
Yeah. Like, so. just came out of nowhere, right?
Yeah. And then he continued to message me, so I had to block him. I had to do it.
Oh, super awkward.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. And then I saw him out recently, and that was awkward.
Oh, how did that go?
We just awkwardly were like, hi, and then just stayed away from each other, which is good.
I feel like either in those scenarios, like you have that awkward moment like you had, or it's like you just pretend like you don't know each other at all, which
Absolutely.
Is usually easier.
Yes.
I've gotten a lot of creepy messages over the years, and I know there's a lot of female wrestlers that have gotten creepy messages and requests. It's not easy being someone half naked in spandex in the public eye, I'll tell you that.
Probably not.
Like, I haven't gotten these requests personally, but I know a lot of female wrestlers that get direct messages about buying, like, I mean, obviously, like, underwear is the thing that, like, dudes want to buy and stuff, and that's, like, creepy in itself. But I think it gets creepier when they start asking for things like socks. Mm-hmm. Like, they want to buy used socks, and, like, they ask specifically. I know one female wrestler whose name I won't divulge, like, she was contacted about selling socks and was specifically asked if she could take the socks, do cardio in them, then seal them in a plastic bag, and then ship them out.
Somebody asked me to do something similar with a pair of shoes I was selling on eBay.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
How'd that work?
He asked me to wear them out to a club, dancing.
Specifically a club.
It's just to wear them out.
Okay.
But he did ask that I wear them dancing. And he wanted me to wear no, like, hose, no socks, nothing with these shoes.
Yeah.
And then send him the shoes. And he would pay extra money.
Wow. So
and I was like, well, that's going to cost you.
what was the dollar amount that would...
Well, I think I was selling the shoe. It was like eBay. So I was selling them for like $15.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I'll do that for $200. And he didn't buy it.
Whoa.
And I was like, oh, damn it.
I'm shocked, actually. You know what? My friend Jordan, who helps edit the podcast here, he actually he was telling me about someone he knew who a male in wrestling who just got a request for he was willing to pay money for this individual to send close-up pictures of his fist.
What? Ew.
Right? Like,
No.
so I don't even know what that spawns from, or like what.
Yes, you do.
Well, I mean, maybe I know, but like I don't. Maybe it's something else. But in general, this guy wanted fucking fist pictures, so that's a thing.
Wow, that's a new one.
Yeah, so I've gotten some pretty creepy requests over the years. Usually, a lot of them consist of selling trunks that may smell like I've wore them in the ring, and I can't imagine that's good. I mean, anyone who enjoys that is just, I don't know. I mean, if that's your thing, fine, but like I wouldn't be requesting previously used smelled spandex.
No, I can't say that I would either.
But I've gotten some creepy messages, but I saved the creepiest one, the creepiest and the spookiest direct message to read to you right now.
I'm so scared.
You should be. Now, I received this back in 2012, so this is a while ago, and I'd like to inform you that this man still occasionally messages me.
You know what? People do that.
Yeah.
After you've been like, hey, you shouldn't contact me anymore.
Yeah.
Well, they still do it.
Well, if I could be honest with you, I feel like I could be honest with you. At first, I didn't respond to any of his messages, but then I started kind of egging it on a little. But so he still messages me.
Started poking the hornet's nest.
Yeah. Just because like there's some entertainment value in it. So this is a message from 2012. I won't give you his full name for the sake of how do you say it? Anonymity. Mm-hmm. Oh wow! Like
Good job.
I sound very intelligent. Multiple syllables in one word. All right, here we go. Hi, Gregory. I'm Tony from Pittsburgh.
You said you were going to say his name.
I could say his. I'm not going to say his full name. All right, we could just know he's Tony from Pittsburgh. I'm Tony from Pittsburgh, near the Pittsburgh airport. Like your profile a lot. I'd like to wrestle you. I'm 5'8", 172 pounds. Turned 61 this past Monday, April 23rd. I have cerebral palsy too. Now, before I continue reading, you'd think to yourself, okay, maybe this is going to be like some sort of like, I can relate to you / you're awesome, I'm inspired type email. So, I'm intrigued. Okay, all right. I have cerebral palsy too. Mild form, which affects my right side. Had a lot of surgery in the 60s, 70s for it. Had my right wrist, fingers fused. I'm also athletic. I'm a fitness swimmer. 2 miles daily, 434 miles in 2011, and over 7,800 total miles. I also like wrestling a lot, but the CP scares off almost everyone. I'm very strong from swimming, especially legs. My favorite aggressor hold is a crushing body scissors. While working over the pecs, more with claw holds. What's wrong, Sarah? Sarah, you have your hands over your face right now.
This is grossing me out already.
I don't do anything serious, but I like being the jobber too. Now, Sarah, do you know what a jobber is?
I believe I do.
It's someone who just loses over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I saw in the newspaper you'll be in Pittsburgh this weekend for a match for the School for the Deaf. It's unlikely I'll be there. My nephew turns 18 tomorrow, and I'll be having dinner with him and my sister at some point this weekend. You know, because he's fucking 61. He's an old man. Do you get down to Pittsburgh much? I'd like to wrestle you. This is where it gets good, Sarah. I'd like to wrestle you, but I don't have a ring. So I'm thinking to myself, as I'm reading this, well, how exactly we would wrestle? When I do wrestle, I get a room at a Motel 6 near me. All the mattresses can be moved to the floor and the frames moved out of the way.
Good Lord.
Please write back. What holds do you like using? What kind of workouts do you do? What are your stats? By the way, when I worked downtown, I was going to the chiropractor, Mark Keenan. He was and is a wrestler. I think his wrestling name was Cody Michaels. Please write back. Hope to meet. Wrestle you soon. Oh, and if you belong to the YMCA and have an away status membership, I belong to the one in Pittsburgh, about 20 miles north of me on 79. My CP is on the right side. What side is yours on? Tony from Pittsburgh. How do you feel right now?
I kind of just want to leave.
Okay. Yeah, well, understand. Well, here's the thing that intrigues me most about this email. At no point, so he thought in writing this that he was going to trick me, like into thinking like, oh yeah, this guy just wants to wrestle. Yeah, I wrestle. I'm a wrestler, so like this guy wants to wrestle, so clearly I'll wrestle him, and then I'm all into it, and then he's like, oh yeah, but like no ring, we'll just go to a motel, and I'm like, oh yeah, still into wrestling, love it, yeah. So like even without a ring, let's wrestle. And then he was gonna get me in like a crushing body scissors, and at some point I was gonna say, you know what, I think I really like this, like more than just wrestling. And then like some more stuff was gonna go down. That's what intrigues me most.
I think it's more likely that he knows that you know exactly what he wants.
Yeah.
And he's trying not to immediately scare you away.
Beating around the bush.
I think he's trying to make it appealing.
Well, he tried. He tried hard, but to no success. And like I said, he still writes me to this day. So
I'm sorry about that.
He's pretty relentless, but that's the creepiest direct message I ever got.
This reminds me a lot of this Instagram account that I just discovered recently called You Look Like a Man, which is it's this Instagram account that posts messages and comments that men post on female powerlifter and bodybuilders' social media. Okay. And it is heinous.
Oh God, I have to check this out.
But a lot of the messages are like that. Like a lot of people saying like, I bet you could kick my ass, or I bet you could bench press me, or let's arm wrestle. Or so it's a lot of that, or people like come lift with me. I bet you're so much stronger than me, and that really turns me on. But then a lot of it is like really like violent and bad. Oh no. But that's what it reminded me of.
Well, that what you just said reminded me of one of my favorite fetishes on all of the internet. And I just like saying the term because it makes me laugh. Gut punching.
That's a thing?
That's a fetish. Like like usually two guys wear masks and they dress like wrestlers essentially, and they film these in like hotel rooms or whatever, and there's nothing sexual happening, but there's like some sort of sexual gratification out of it, and it's literally just one of the guys will just be standing up against the wall and just punching the other in the gut repeatedly, and the guy was while he's getting blood, so it's like
that's gross.
Punching in the gut over and over again, and then they switch places, and then just like they're just punching each other in the gut.
Oh, what if that's what the fist picture was for?
It might have been to measure up for proper gut punching, right? There's actually my favorite one gut punching video, because I play these all the time on road trips and everything, and like just dudes hate it in the car. They're like, please stop playing these videos. And then for a while, the girl I was dating previously, I would take pictures of two guys gut punching each other, and I would Photoshop my face over one guy and then her face on the other guy to be like, what do you think of this? She's like, please stop sending me these, which is probably why I'm single again.
Yeah, but
maybe. My favorite video is like there's two guys, they're roommates, And the scenario is, it starts off like a bad porn, and like the guy, and you could tell the era in which this was filmed because it's like early 2000s, but then it's clarified when the guy sits down and he turns on the radio, and he starts playing Blurry by Puddle of Mud.
Oh no!
And so as he's playing it, like he's playing it overly loud, I guess, and the other roommate walks on. He goes, "What the fuck are you doing? Turn down the music." And then he's just like, "I don't have to turn down my music." And then he's just like, "Okay, well, I say we have a gut punching contest, and if I win, you have to turn down your music. And if, so it's like this whole scenario. So then it just cuts, and then like these guys gut punch each other for like 20 minutes. And then
20 minutes.
20 minutes. Like it gets so aggressive where I'm like, how are these guys, like, how is this even happening for this long? And then finally the guy who originally played the music, he ends up getting gut punched out. And then the other guy says, "Turn your fucking music down," and slams his room. And then like it just abruptly ends. It just says the end.
That's it.
That's the video. It's on YouTube. I'll link it on.
Unresolved.
I mean, if you lose the gut punching contest, if you get the wind knocked out of you, you're done. I mean, how else are you gonna resolve that?
I feel like you can't be doing that for any extended period of time.
It's being done. I mean, you have to imagine that it's going to lead to like some sort of internal issues or bleeding. So that's a real problem. But hey, we're rambling here. I got to tell you something. I had a crazy weekend of wrestling, and I really enjoyed myself up until Monday. There was a show for Game Changer Wrestling, and I don't want to go into all the details about it, but I just want to say that I was with my good friend Ricky Shane Page and my good friend Atticus Koger, and I feel like Ricky Shane Page is the rightful GCW champion. I mean, he's technically not the champion, but he should be. Nick Gage is a con artist. He's a convict, and I'm not too crazy about him. And he did some shit that I really don't appreciate this past Monday, and I'm sure, in time that's all gonna come to light on the internet. But I had a good weekend at the other shows that I was on. But as far as GCW goes and Nick Gage, I just want to say you're a piece of shit, and you are going to get what's coming to you. But you know what? We're not going to go into details about that. We're going to move on. I want to tell you guys about what I'm doing this weekend, which I'm actually very excited about. Sarah, here's where I'm going to be this weekend. I'm going to be, for the first time, in Seattle, Washington for 3-2-1 Battle, which I'm very excited about. That is Friday, November 1st at 9 p.m. at the Evolve Fitness Center. I'm in a 4-way match. I'm super excited about it. Saturday, I'll be doing a seminar in Seattle, and Sunday, I'll actually be wrestling for DAOA Pro Wrestling in Portland, Oregon, which I'm super stoked about. It's me versus Steve Miggs for the Verified Championship because he has a blue check mark on Twitter. But guess what? He hasn't wrestled someone else who has a blue check mark. Sarah, I'm here to tell you that on Twitter, I, in fact, have a blue check mark.
You do.
I do, and I feel like Steve has met his match. So Sunday, November 3rd, me and Steve Miggs, pal, you're going down. I'm taking your Verified Championship. So I'm really excited about my debuts in Seattle and Portland this weekend. But enough about me. Sarah, I appreciate everything you do as far as the costumes go.
Thank you.
And you putting up with my insanity.
Mm-hmm.
And it means a lot. And I think we, for the second year in a row, have created a incredible costume. And I'm just going to say it. I love you.
I love you too, Greg.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So you're going to keep doing these costumes. You're going to keep making these masks. If someone were to, I don't know, in the wrestling community or outside of the wrestling community, want a mask or an outfit, I mean, you could do something like that for them, couldn't you?
Potentially, depending on what they want.
Okay. And, I mean, they can obviously check out everything you're doing on social media and get in contact with you if they were interested in something like that, correct?
Absolutely. So they can contact me via my Instagram, which is eonflex, AEON_FLEX. Feel free to send me a message, and we can talk about anything you want, whether it's a crappy cheap mask or a really nice expensive one.
But what we're not going to do is we're not going to send Sarah any creepy direct messages.
No, don't do that, please.
Unless it's about the size of your fist. Sorry. But hey, enough about creepy DMs, enough about fist sizes and cool costumes. We have to get to an interview, and that interview is with Kody Lane. You guys are going to fall in love with this kid. He works so hard. If you listen to my interview with Kurt Stallion a couple weeks ago, you know how much I love Kurt Stallion and how hard I think he works, I think Kody Lane works just as hard. He puts in the hours, he puts in the drives, he puts in the miles. He's paying his dues. You're going to love this kid. Here we go. Interview Kody Lane right now. Cacao. I've got an important question for all you wrestling fans out there. Are you looking for hard-hitting wrestling journalism that is every bit as trustworthy and fact-based as professional wrestling itself? Well, then you've got no choice but to check out kayfabenews.com. Kayfabe News is unreal news about an unreal sport. It's the world's premier wrestling news site. Well, not exactly. I guess it's more like The Onion, but it's entirely about pro wrestling. You've surely seen some of the headlines. I'm talking like Hogan tells brother something, Cena visits injured self in hospital, or Lashley brashly lashes back at Backlash as a mismatch of trashy squash matches. They've even written a story about yours truly defeating Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship at an indie show in Cleveland, and you never know, that might come true someday. But this isn't about me. This is about Kayfabe News, and I strongly encourage you to check out all the stories on kayfabenews.com. And hey, if you have some time, they've got a hilarious new YouTube show, which drops every Tuesday at youtube.com/Kayfabe News. And you know I have a great t-shirt collection. I've got a bunch of great shirts that I've gotten that support Kayfabe News, and you can get your very own just by going to prowrestlingtees.com/Kayfabe News. Kayfabe News, remember, it's not fake news. It's unreal. So I'm sitting here at Freelance Wrestling just a couple hours before the show with Kody Lane. Cody, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like you're saying you're well, but you've had quite the morning, have you not?
Yeah. Took a 5, turned into 7-hour mega bus ride to Chicago from St. Louis, and then was dropped off in the middle of nowhere in dangerous Chicago.
How dangerous are we talking?
Holes in windows, people walking around, homeless people, and then dark and gloomy.
I mean, there's homeless people everywhere, though. Like,
Yeah,
what was so
but
scary about them?
They just gave me the look, man.
What's
The look I had, well, they can't see on here, but you know the eyes, like the side turn and stuff like that. Yeah, the crazy eyes.
They want some money from you or some food, but probably money.
Well, I had food and money on me, so I looked like a big asshole just like sitting there in the street.
Yeah. So you were there for like, what, 8 hours?
Yeah, so I turned the corner, and then thank God I saw like a shopping center.
Yeah.
So I went to the gym and then sat in a Panera Bread for 6.5 hours.
Okay, what'd you work out?
I did a full body workout
Okay.
because I was charged $20 and I was in a fluster.
$20.
So, yeah.
That's so awful. I was offered to go to an Anytime Fitness today, which I'm not a member of, and I was told that the charge would be $15. So I said nope, and I drove to the Planet Fitness because I'd rather work out for free.
Yes.
And Planet Fitness isn't that bad if you know how to work out.
No, you know that Anytime by your place?
Yeah.
I went in there and they tried to charge me $25 to loan out like a little key card.
I remember that. Yeah. Oh my God.
I said, dude, I'll be back tomorrow morning and I'll grab it. And they went, cool, we won't charge you till then. I was like, cool.
That is classic wrestling carnying 101. And it's amazing that you know little strategies like that because you haven't been wrestling that long.
No, this February 21st was my 4 years ago, my first ever match.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like I've known you for a couple years now, and like obviously this podcasting thing is new to me. But I knew when planning people that I wanted to talk to and like ideas and themes for the show, I knew that you were one of the guys that I wanted to talk to, basically because over the last couple of years that I've grown to see you as a performer and know you as a human, I know two things. One, you are incredibly talented and in some regards underrated. And two, I just feel like you just describing what you went through this morning with the bus trip and everything and like knowing your travel schedule, how often you drive hours and hours, how many miles you put on your personal vehicle. It's like, you should be commended for that because like it just shows that you really want it. Mm-hmm. So like, what drives you as a human and as a wrestler over the last 4 years to be, I guess, a journeyman of sorts that is putting hours and hours? Like, first and foremost, what are the most hours you've ever put into a drive?
Into a drive? Okay, so when this was like my second year into wrestling, and I got to do those Canadian tours, like those CWE tours with Danny Duggan. So I did one, and it was like 12 days in a row. I wrestled 12 days in a row, and then I did another one where it was like 16 days in a row.
Yeah.
But then I became friends with some guy down there, and he came down here for a month in Texas and tried to wrestle. So this is where it gets terrible. He drove down from Canada to Texas.
Okay.
So and he was like, how about you guys ride with me up there? I'll pay for all the gas and everything. I'm like, okay.
Okay. So how long is the drive from where he was
from
at?
Austin,
Canada?
Texas. We drove from Austin, Texas. Me, Ethan Price, and his name Travis Cole. We drove from Austin, Texas to Winnipeg. It was a 26-hour drive.
Holy shit.
And it was the worst, like, day of my life.
And you drove that over the course of one-ish day?
A day, like a day and a half.
So what is what does a rest period look like as far as that travel schedule?
Peeing.
That's it.
Yeah, peeing on the side of the road and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but the messed up thing was like, so as soon as we get into Winnipeg, we didn't even have like a day of like rest. We just get there at night and like sleep.
Yeah.
And then we wake up the next day and the tour started, and like that was like the biggest tour. It was 21 days in a row.
Holy crap.
And it was fun, obviously.
Yeah.
But on that last day, we were like, okay, I think we're ready to go home now.
Sure. Yeah. And you know, like I've been having this talk with a lot of guys lately, where it's like traveling is challenging, right?
Yeah.
Getting little sleep is challenging, but I think as far as like us doing something that we love and are passionate about, like if that's the worst thing that we have to endure, as far as like it obviously physical pain too, but like I don't know, like I always find myself like almost mentally prepared for like my Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday to know like, okay, probably not going to be a lot of sleep this weekend, but like in sacrificing that sleep, I get some of the best life moments that I've ever experienced.
Right.
You know
Like
what I'm saying?
you see just, you know, you just see life driving, you know what I mean? And like where I work now, like they'll ask me like, where are you going this weekend?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I'm going to like Canada or whatever. Like, how far is that? I'm like, it's like 11 hours, not that bad. And they're just like, what? Like, are you psycho?
Right. Well, because like when you become a pro wrestler, your perception of a long drive is very skewed, right? So it's just one of those things where it's like to the common folk, they just don't understand, because like right now we're in Chicago. Like your trip was like X amount of hours on a bus. My trip was, well, I flew in this time around, but I was stranded yesterday, which is a story all in itself. But in general, it's usually a 5-hour trip to Chicago from Cleveland for me. And when I tell people, or when I worked a real job during the weekend, I'd say, oh, I'm going to Chicago Friday. And they're like, oh, how long are you staying? I'm like, a couple hours. And then I'm turning around and driving home. They're like, wait, what? Because regular people plan vacations around something like that, you know? So before you became a wrestler, how much traveling did you do?
I didn't do anything. I'm from like Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So Savannah, Oklahoma is like a town of like 400 people. So it's like a village technically.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like, and my mom, like she wouldn't let me drive to like the bigger cities. Like they're like Tulsa, Oklahoma's like an hour and a half away.
Yep.
She said, oh no, that's too far for you. You can't do that.
Yeah.
So as soon as I turned 18, I was like, I'm doing pro wrestling. I'm gonna leave. Like whatever you say.
Sure.
So I went from Savannah, Oklahoma to Austin, which is only like a 6-hour drive.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, we'd plan like for months. Like we got to get prepared for the 6-hour drive and stay there a full week, you know? So I just drove down there, and like I went from 400 people to 1 million people.
That's crazy.
I've never drove on like more than like a 2-lane highway before.
Wow.
So I go from that to 6-lane, where people are honking at me and saying swear words.
Yeah.
I'm just like, this is a culture shock. I was scared to death.
Sure, because you're just like a small town boy, right?
Yeah, like, and everything. I was like terrified for like my first month.
So so like so growing up in your town, Oklahoma, like what was your first exposure to pro wrestling? Small town, like was it one of those things where you discovered it yourself? Was it hard to get wrestling where you were at? Like, did you?
So actually, it wasn't that hard. So my best friend who got me into wrestling from back home, we met each other when we were 4th grade, and then he was like, "Hey, you want to come to my house and spend the night?" I was like, "Yeah, for sure." So we go over there, and he's like, "I'm gonna show you some like old ECW tapes. You ever heard of that?" And I was like, "No." He had all this stuff like recorded on like VHS tapes and like this like I don't know, like 04, 05.
Okay.
And then he was like, "Cool, I'll show you Jerry Lynn." So that was like the first wrestler I ever saw was Jerry Lynn. And then after that, I was like immediately hooked. I bought like all the action figures and stuff like that, and was like watching. It was funny though; it's very obscure. My first ever like on TV watching it myself memory of wrestling was Raw and watching the Highlanders.
That's so random. The Islanders.
And I bought their action figures because I thought they were cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
I said the Highlanders, right? Okay, so that makes it even more random because it's like they were there for a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
What were you? Did you become fan of the Highlanders?
No, I just saw them. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Okay.
Like, and then I went to Walmart and I was like, oh my God, Mom, I gotta get these. I gotta get Rory McAllister. I gotta have him.
Well, you gotta have that one.
Yeah.
We're not even gonna worry about the John Cena or the Randy Orton. Just gotta get Rory McAllister. That's the important figure to get. And I'm sure, actually, I'll do some research, but I believe that figures went up in value to about. Looking at my phone, $1 million.
Oh wow, okay, cool.
So
I figured so.
Congratulations.
Nice. I'll have to dig them up and
Yeah,
find them.
you didn't even care about them that much to save them. So you have $1 million inside of a toy chest at home somewhere. You don't even realize it. So you start watching ECW, Jerry Lynn. Was there like a specific match that you watched of Jerry Lynn's?
None that I can actually like remember.
Yeah.
All I remember is like seeing Jerry Lynn and like I know he had like matches like RVD and stuff like when I was like 9 and stuff like watching all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is cool, like blood and everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what drew me to it.
Sure.
And then after that, I was hooked and I just watched like religiously throughout like my entire teens. I don't think I quit playing with action figures, wrestling action figures until I was like 15.
Okay, and you said this was 4th grade when you were exposed to
Yeah.
this? So you were like
I was 9 years old.
8 or 9? Okay,
Yeah.
so what were you into before wrestling? Like, what was your obsession before that?
Nothing. I was not into sports. I wasn't into like anything. No, I wasn't even into like UFC or anything. I was just like a fat kid who just like wandered the earth. Like I was like
Okay.
Yeah.
You were a fat kid. I don't believe that.
I was so fat,
Because
dude.
you're tall and lanky now.
Oh, dude, yeah. So like when I was like 9 years old, I was like 5'6"
Okay.
and like 100, about 95, 200 pounds. I think the most I got during that was like 210. I was
You were
fat.
9?
Yeah.
So you're 2 inches taller than I am at 9 than
Yeah.
I am right now.
Really?
That's sad.
You're 5'4"?
I'm 5'4".
Really?
Yeah, and some days I'm 6 foot. but
Depends on
usually-
what you wear. Yeah.
Yeah, or what I've eaten that day, but at 5'4".
Depends on whose like shoulders you're on and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so you were a fat kid.
Yeah, I was fat, and then it's where I fluctuate a lot. So I went from like super fat kid and like all the way to like 6th grade, 7th grade, and I hit a growth spurt, and then I was like this height. Now I'm at 6'2".
Yeah.
So imagine this. So I was 9th grade, 14 years old, 6'2", 115 pounds.
Oh wow.
Because I was made fun of a lot, so I just went like completely anorexic.
Yeah.
Like, didn't eat at all.
Right.
So I went from that, and then like when I was 14, I was like, oh, I really want to be like a wrestler, so I got to like get bigger. So I went from like 115 to like 250 pounds my senior year.
Holy crap.
So I just fluctuated so much.
Now was that like a weightlifting 250?
We could say that. Like
Okay.
it was. Have you ever seen like, any of my older like wrestling pictures, like when I very first started?
I've seen a couple, and like every time I've been shocked
Dude.
by what you look like.
I look like a busted can of biscuits on some of them. Like, it's rough.
A
Dude.
busted can of biscuits. That's rough. Wow. Okay, so now you said you weren't into anything, so maybe as a kid you misinterpreted the
Yeah.
question. You said you weren't into any sports, but like, what did you like that wasn't wrestling related? You had to have some sort of like obsession or passion, like as a small child, something that you were drawn to.
That drew me to it, like I liked playing with action figures like the G.I. Joes and
Okay.
stuff like that, but like I like none that I can remember before wrestling, like when I was like 8 or 7, which is kind of like I can't remember anyways.
Yeah.
I wasn't really into anything. Like my first thing of like remembrance of obsession was wrestling,
Okay.
which I guess I know that sounds like cliche, but
And were you an only child?
no, I'm the youngest of 3.
Okay. So
So-
older brothers, sister?
Yeah, I have an older brother, and then I have the oldest is my sister.
Okay.
So,
What are they into?
my sister's into music
Okay.
and stuff like that, and
Yep.
then my brother, he does tattooing,
Okay.
tattoo artist, and he also does like plant growing
Plant
of that
growing.
sort.
Okay.
Yeah,
That sounds interesting.
yeah,
Two different ends of the spectrum, like tattooing, and then also I grow plants.
yeah.
Are these the legal plants?
These are the illegal plants. Like,
Illegal.
going into legal plants. Like,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
And has he done any of your artwork?
Yeah, he did these. He did like I was 16 when I got my first tattoo.
Okay.
So he did this one, and then he did this one, which that one's kind of crappy.
So
but I just really
describe
wanted
what
one.
we're looking at.
Okay, yeah. So for the people that are listening, I have an owl on my arm with
Okay.
a sugar skull. You know, on the inner thing, I've never told anybody this before, but I'm gonna say it.
Wow.
So I was 17 when I got this tattoo,
Okay.
and I got a dead koi fish on me.
Okay.
But I really wanted a koi fish, but I wanted to make it my own because the person I looked up to when I was 14, 15, 17 was CM Punk, and he had a koi fish tattoo on his arm. So I did that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So a little CM Punk inspiration there.
Yeah.
So would you say that was like your first favorite wrestler? CM
No,
Punk?
my favorite wrestler of all time was Edge.
Oh, okay.
Can't beat it. Like, you know what I mean? That was my favorite wrestler of all time.
Yeah. What drew you to Edge?
Man, just like his, like every time he walked out, you know, he just like pulled his hair, like he had the jacket, everything like that. That's what like drew me to him.
What was the era Edge we're talking when you started getting into him?
05, like Money in the Bank era.
Oh, that's like perfect era. Like
yeah.
he's like coming into his own.
Like when he started coming up and doing all that, and then like obviously I went back and watched like his stuff before then, but when I started getting into wrestling around that time, he was like on the rise at that point. Yeah. So then after that, I just stuck with him like the whole way.
Yeah, that's awesome. When he cashed in the Money in the Bank for the first time at New Year's Revolution against John Cena, that was shocking. And that's like when you think of wrestling moments in the last 15 years, particularly in WWE, when I go back and think of that moment, like I remember I was really taken aback because I wasn't ordering every pay-per-view. I'd wait till they come out on DVD, but I was like reading results as they would come in online. And I remember thinking, okay, Super Cena going to retain the title, right? And I remember I refreshed the page and it said Edge is the WWE champion, and he wasn't even in the match. And I was like, whoa, wait, what? And like it was like crazy the way they booked that, right?
Yeah, it was insane. Like what I hate though is they did it the exact same thing again with like Batista like a few years later.
Yes.
So that was like whatever, you know what I mean? But yeah, the Edge one was like that one was the best. Like I say my best too. Like one of my like favorite Edge memories, like speaking of Elimination Chamber, is when he lost it in the beginning and then won the WWE title at the very end.
Yeah, didn't he like beat up Kofi Kingston?
Yeah, he beat up Kofi Kingston and he locked himself in.
Yeah. That's like awesome. Edge had some really cool moments.
Oh yeah, man.
In that time frame.
That's the reason why I grew my hair out.
Just
yeah, because like when I was like 18 or 19 and I started wrestling, I was like, I just need to do something different. I mean, I just started, I had like a few matches, but then I was like, I just want to grow my hair out and see what it looks like, and then I was like, start doing it.
I can't imagine you with anything but long hair now.
Right, that's how nobody remembers me as like short hair and stuff because I just immediately start growing it out.
We're gonna have to find a picture of short hair Cody.
Oh, can that be the thumbnail? If this is like,
yes, absolutely. It'll be like a little thumbnail, a picture of us with a thumbnail of you with short hair, and they'll be like, "Who's the random guy in the corner of this picture?" Oh, wait, what? It's just a fat, short-head kid, like just.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No.
Oh, so my perfect like speaking of like the short hair, fat. My first promo picture ever, since I'm from Oklahoma, my first like trainers, they're very cliche people.
Yep.
They're like, oh, you're from Oklahoma, so you have to be a cowboy. You have to be a cowboy.
Wait a minute. So they had only specifically trained wrestlers to be cowboys who were from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
How many? First of all, okay, wait a minute. Maybe I should back up. So you're 14, 15 when you realize you want to be a wrestler?
Yeah, I was like legit about it, yeah.
Okay, so then you find a wrestling school, when and where?
So when I was 16, I finally had like the nerve to tell people I wanted to be a wrestler.
Yep.
Because everybody else was going to college and stuff like that. Which if I actually like knew like everything was going to work out and I was going to get to go, I would have slacked off way more in high school.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So as soon as I turned 16, I was like, hey, Mom, I'm going to go be a wrestler in Austin because like my uncle lived down there. So I was like, that's an easy way just to move down and live with him and just do wrestling out of there.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, if you can find a good, notable school, you can. I was like, okay, great.
Okay.
So I found this place called AAPW. And I looked online and all that stuff. And like that's where like ACH like trained there for a bit too.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, like I kind of know who he is because I started getting more like independent wrestling and stuff. So I was like, okay. So I lied to my mom. And I was like, this is the best wrestling school ever. Ever. She said, really, in Austin? I was like, yeah, isn't that crazy? Uncle lives there and the best wrestling school's there. She's like, okay, we'll go check it out. And I'm like, okay. She said, but before you can do that, you have to get a job. So I applied online and out of nowhere, Gold's Gym hit me up and was like, hey, we want to hire you. So I drove 6 hours for like a 10-minute interview. My mom drove me down there. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I did the interview and then the next day we went to go see the wrestling school, and it was a really crappy, storage unit behind a furniture store.
Okay.
It's hot. It was like August, July-ish kind of. We go in there and like there's this old Latino guy. His name's George De La Isla. He helped train me in the beginning. So he's just sitting there like these short shorts, like big belly and everything like that. We sit down. We talk to him for like an hour, and then we leave. Then we step out. My mom, she's like, "You're not going here. This is dangerous." And I was like, "Yeah, I am." I was like, so like, I told my mom like as soon like I was already 18 at that point. I was like a month being into 18. And I was like, well, I'm going to go down there either way. So so eventually she's like, okay, if you get hired on, you can go. 2 days later, I got a call from Gold's Gym saying we want you to start. So like 5 days later, I moved down there on a whim.
It's like fate.
Yeah, right. Like that's what I thought. I was like, all this is happening like too crazy. You know what I mean? Too fast. I was like, I can't believe this is happening.
Okay. So you get the job at Gold's Gym, and now you're signed up for the wrestling school.
Yes.
And so in my mind, for some reason, I thought you found a school in Oklahoma. And
No,
for some
never
reason,
trained in Oklahoma.
Okay, so for some reason, I'm thinking, all these people are training from Oklahoma, and they're only training other wrestlers to beat Oklahoma Cowboys for some reason. It's like an all cowboy wrestling
Cowboy Pro.
Cowboy Pro Wrestling. So they have the funny idea that because you're from Oklahoma, you should be a cowboy.
Right, yeah, because I remember one time I was cut, like, we were doing like promo classes and stuff, and they were like, you got to have like more of a twang. I'm like, I already got a twang, you know what I mean? Like, I already got like an accent. And they're like, you need like some dip in your mouth and stuff like that. And I was like, you want me to pick up tobacco?
Yeah.
Like doing that. So, which is funny though, like my first, so when I moved down there, I went to go see the school again on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, $300 down, you can start. I'm like, okay, cool, I'll be here Friday. They got evicted from the building that Friday. So my first day of pro wrestling ever was taking down a ring and not seeing it for 3 months.
That's
So
awful.
I started training in a park for 3 months to be a pro wrestler.
In a park?
Yeah, like a park with like a softball field. I learned how to do a side headlock takedown on a diamond plate.
Whoa.
Yeah. I never like my first 3 months of wrestling. So from like August to like November-ish, I was at a park. And then I only had like 2 months of like in-ring training that I had my first match.
So are you learning bumps in the park too?
No. We learned how to run the ropes, right, weirdly. Because they're like, you got to take 3 steps, then turn. They're like, just run back and forth.
In the park
Yeah.
with no ropes there.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. So that's mind-boggling because like I don't know. Like I guess like as far as positioning and timing, that's okay.
See, that's what blew my mind. Because when I tried to run the ropes, like in an actual ring, I was like, this doesn't seem right now.
Yeah. Well, because like I was gonna say, like I feel like you really need to experience hitting those ropes because if you don't hit them correctly, it sucks. Like the ropes, the turnbuckles, like you could mess up your kidney. Like I've heard of guys pissing out of their Peter because of hitting the turnbuckles wrong, and like it's a serious situation.
Yeah, like it was really shocking to me because it was like obviously a complete 180 going from like a park to a ring and then learning how to hit like imaginary ropes to real ropes.
Yeah,
like it was wild.
So the process was just a matter of finding another building.
Pretty much, yeah. And they just like yank our chain around for like a couple months. They're like, guys, we found a building. We're moving in next Monday. And we're like, oh yeah. Next Monday we'd be at the park, and he was like, all right, guys, didn't work out.
Next Monday for sure.
Yeah. So we finally find one, and it was just like another garage type deal,
Yeah.
But yeah, then I started training there, and then like 6 months into training, like a little bit less, I met Albert, met ACH, and then he kind of took over from there.
Okay.
Because he took a liking to me.
Yeah. So you learn the basics in a park.
Yeah, pretty much.
You meet Albert. Mm-hmm. So does he have a school at the time, or
no? So he was still living in St. Louis at that time. So he flew in and just to meet everybody because he's friends with like Ricky Starks. So Ricky was there. So he came in and stuff like that, and then we all just started talking and stuff. And then he kept flying back more and more, and then we became friends. And then when he got like his exclusive contract to Ring of Honor, he texted me one day, just messaged me on Facebook, and was like, hey, I'm moving back to Austin. I can get you on St. Louis Anarchy if you drive up with Ricky and them, and then help me drive back. I was like, okay, cool. So this is like my first like actual long road trip. Okay. So I drove 13 hours from Austin and stuff like that. The funny thing was, though, we wrestle and everything, and then we're leaving. And Albert, like, I don't care. Albert plays sick. I'm using quotations right now. He sits in the back. And then you know who JoJo Bravo is? Yeah. So he's in the passenger seat. I drive 13 hours straight down there. And I remember we're like halfway through, and I'm like, guys, I'm tired. And Albert's like playing asleep. And then JoJo looks at me and says, you just keep going until you can't go no more.
Oh my God. That is so dangerous and unsafe and stupid.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So I drove the entire way there. And then JoJo made me take him grocery shopping afterwards. So
immediately afterwards, without sleeping. Yeah. Okay, that's ridiculous.
I laugh so hard about it now.
Now, how many matches did you have before this long road trip?
Ooh, so February of 15, I had my first match, and I was only wrestling monthly, so I maybe had like 10 or 11 matches before I went out and did Anarchy.
So, what was it that made you think that it was a good idea to just drive 13 hours for this booking? Because I'll be honest with you, like in my experiences with a lot of young kids, like that are coming up in wrestling, like, and even in some aspects for me when I started, like the idea of like my first out of Cleveland booking was a 4.5 hour road trip to Cincinnati, Ohio for HWA, which used to be the WWE developmental territory.
Right.
And it was for a 3-ring, 60-man battle royal. And I remember the thought of driving 4.5 hours for $0 was like, oh God. But I needed to do it because I wanted to try to get that exposure.
Yeah.
Right? So like, was that your mindset?
So that was my mindset. Like, so that wasn't my first. That was my first like super long road trip out of Texas. So my first one was Louisiana.
Okay.
So I drove. It was like 6 hours. Out of there. So like that was like my first experience. And I was like, Texas is so big everywhere. It's 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. And so yeah, that was like my first out of state one was like Louisiana, but like my first like legit one for like a legit like I guess company. It was there. And in my head, like I really wasn't thinking. Like I was like only like 10 or 11 matches in.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I got to go like wrestle there and stuff like that. So I was like, screw it, we'll see what happens.
That's crazy. So okay, so we sort of glossed over the whole cowboy thing.
Yeah.
When they're asking you about this cowboy character, when that starts to disappear, where does the name Kody Lane come from?
So Kody Lane is my real name. It's my first and middle name.
Okay.
So my original wrestling name was Cody Crash.
What was that based off of?
I have no clue. I watched Django Unchained.
Okay.
And there's a guy in there named Billy Crash. And I was like, oh, that's a cool name, Crash. And then like
Cody Crash.
Yeah, I was like, oh, Cody Crash, why not? It goes. And then when the funniest thing is though, because I thought it was a sick name. And then Albert started saying, he's like, Cody Crash, like started screaming it like in a redneck voice. And then he messaged me one night like at 1 a.m. He's like, man, you got to change that. Name sucks. And I was like, okay. So, and then I was like, well, I don't really know what to like change it to. And I was like, I like Kody Lane. So then I looked up like Kody Lane, and the first thing to pop up was a porn star.
I was gonna bring that up, not because I know, but a guy I know who knows another guy had told me that there was a porn star named Kody Lane. I mean, I don't. Yeah. I'm the inspirational wrestler. Yeah. I don't search things like that.
Of course,
I know nothing about
totally
it.
understandable.
So you see that there's this pornographic star named Kody Lane.
Yeah.
You just thought you're gonna go with it anyways.
So hers is CODY as well, and mine's CODY as well. But I was like, I'll just change it to a K, like I originally did with Cody Crash.
Gotcha.
Because I kept being called Crazy Cody Crash and Cowboy Cody Crash. And it's just 3 cases don't really.
Wait. So they still went with the cowboy thing?
Oh, they wanted it, dude. They're very like cliche, stereotypical people. Because like there is like, since it's Austin, Texas, like Latinos and Hispanics, like really like the community's really big there.
Yeah.
So they're like, you're gonna be a Native American.
What?
Yeah.
You don't look Native American at
no,
all.
No, not me, but the Hispanic.
Oh, okay,
wrestlers.
All right. I'm like, okay, wait, but like they're going from cowboys to Native Americans.
Yeah, they're going like they're like yeah, we're gonna do a Cowboys and Indians deal.
Okay, Jesus.
Yeah. So
did you have a cowboy getup?
Dude, okay. So I wanted to be like, so I knew Edge was all my favorite wrestler and stuff like that, but I was like, oh, I'll try to go for like the flamboyant thing. I'll try to do that. So I was like, maybe I'll get like zebra tights, like, and just try to be like Shawn Michaels.
Okay.
Like a little bit and see what happens.
So you weren't completely invested in the cowboy thing. You wanted to make it your own unique cowboy experience.
So they wanted me to be a cowboy, but I kept saying no. Yeah. For some reasons, like I was always terrified of like telling people like not off, but like, you know what I mean, what was wrong and stupid.
Sure.
So I was like, no, I don't want to do it. Like I feel uncomfortable doing that. And they're like, okay. So my first match ever, so I had like zebra tights, black boots, and a vest. And I was like, I look fucking awesome. And so
I'd like to see a picture of that because I can't imagine you look that. I can't imagine you look awesome, but
so no, it's not. But
okay.
But then so now I was gonna come out to The Stroke by Billy Squier. I was like, of course, I've made it. And then
there's no more cowboy song than The Stroke.
Yeah. So they're like, you can't. They're like, fine, you can have all that. You don't have to do the cowboy thing. So I get a text message from one of the trainers like late at night, the day before my first show. My family comes down and everything, and they're like, they want you to do the cowboy gimmick. We have a cowboy character stuff for you. And I'm like, what? So I'm like, okay. So I get there and like, we have this hat for you. It's a straw hat, cowboy hat. I'm like, so you want me to wear all this? Straw cowboy hat. They went, yeah. And I was like, well, can I still come out to that song? And they went, no. And I was like, okay. And they went, we got something for you. You're really going to like it. I went, no. So my first ever wrestling match and my first ever theme song was Boot, Scoot, and Boogie.
No. What was that, Brooks and Dunn?
Huh? Yes.
Okay.
As soon as I came out, I said, my career's done. Like, like I was like, everybody's going to make fun of me.
Yeah.
I was like, these tights suck. It's like just talking down on myself.
Everything that was once good has now become incredibly bad because
Yeah.
of the straw hat and this damn song.
So, and it sucks too because I was like the first match on the show, and I had to do like a run in at the main event.
Yeah.
So you had to hear that dumb song twice.
Oh,
I was the curtain jerking, and I ended the show with Boot, Scoot, and Boogie.
That's amazing.
So I feel like my retirement match will be Boot, Scoot, and Boogie.
I can only hope.
Yeah.
Well, you've come a long way from Boot, Scoot, and Boogie, and
Yeah.
like I mentioned earlier at the start of the podcast, like I think you're one of the most talented young
thank you.
pro wrestlers out there, and like I mean that, like you do some incredible stuff. Now, when you let's talk psychology, like
Yeah.
so, would you say that you picked up a lot of the stuff that you carry with you into the ring from ACH, or are there other people that like have had some input in like the way you think? Like, are there some lessons you've learned along the way over the last 4 years that like you
Yeah.
did something a certain way and you're like, wait a minute, that makes a little more sense now?
Yeah, like a big help, like obviously was Albert, and like he helped me like with psychology a lot because obviously when you start you don't know nothing about any of that.
Sure.
But when I with the like those Canadian tours like were kind of bummers because like just crowd wise and all that stuff, like it was really crappy situations a lot. But they always bring like really good people on there. Like I got to learn from like Silas Young.
Oh,
And
Silas
like
is
Beer
the
City
man.
Brews, like all those guys were like super nice to me and like helped me a lot, like with like in-ring wrestling and everything like that.
Do you remember anything Silas told you specifically?
Nothing specifically, just telling me like what stuff to like work on, like what to slow down and what times to pick it back up and stuff like
Yeah.
that during a match.
So basic stuff that just like sometimes you just need like a veteran to be like, hey,
Right,
you're
do
doing
this
okay, kid,
instead.
you're going in the right direction, but like just
Right.
slow down.
And I learned how to like switch gears in matches and stuff like from Albert, but then my first time doing that, my first like ever like big name wrestling was like Jonathan Gresham.
Okay.
Up there, and then he taught me how to like just switch gears and like when to pick it up and stuff like that. So like so yeah, those people like really helped me a lot during that time.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then like you like and I met you and I met like Ricky and all that stuff, like a year and a half ago, and you guys have helped me, so much and stuff.
Yeah, well, like I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times it's weird for me. As of July 9th this year, it's been 13 years, which is
Gosh, really?
crazy because I traveled a lot with M-Dog Matt Cross a lot when I first started, and Josh Prohibition,
Yeah.
who are Cleveland and independent wrestling legends. And I remember they were like in their late 20s, early 30s, and I was like, early 20s, and I remember thinking like these guys are a lot older than me, and like they've seen so much and done so much, and they've been doing this for so long. Like I can't imagine doing it for this long. And like now, not only have I been doing it just as long as they had at that point, it's like I'm in a position where, because of some of the people that I've worked with over the years, that like I have some sort of knowledge that I can pass along.
for sure.
And it's like it's weird to be in that position where like you can help others, like pass down that knowledge.
Right.
But it's like it's a cool feeling. Like when you brought up Silas, I wrestled him back in AAW back in 2011.
Oh, wow.
Right after I did the thing with CM Punk.
Yeah.
Okay. So probably had one of the best matches I ever had. A match that in 2011 I would not have been capable of having at that moment. But because Silas essentially carried me, he made me look like $1 million.
Yeah.
And the one thing of all the things that stuck out to me in that match that he told me, or I don't even know if he really told me as much as it like he just kind of explained to me what he was going to do, and it just kind of sunk in like on dives. I was going to do a suicide dive at one point in the match, and he told me, just so you know, I'm not going to be close to the apron, and I'm probably going to be like down, and I'm not like waiting for you to dive on me, but I'm going to pop up the last second and I'm going to get you. Don't worry. So don't hesitate or anything. So I'm like, okay. And like, I'm just used to guys like standing there and waiting to get a flying push through the ropes, right? So sure enough, like I go for the dive and like I don't even see him, and then just last second, boom, just pops up from like the apron and he's there to catch me, right? But it's one of those things where like I took that little bit of information that like he wasn't necessarily trying to teach me something, but like I retained that, and like now I try to consciously do that, specifically when I'm in matches alone catching dives and stuff, and like I try to tell guys like I'm not going to be there waiting for you. Because I think that's like, psychology-wise, like, I get why dudes are doing it just to make sure, but like sometimes it's like, I don't want to just stand there and look like an idiot.
You hate like the proverbial like hands on the hips, like
Yeah. Like I'm waiting to be dove on. You know? Like I want it to be like, okay, I just took whatever to powder out of the ring. I'm selling. Oh, what is that? And like I'm thinking in my mind, hopefully, dude's running at me right now.
Yeah.
And I turn around, up, here we go, boom. Like, and you try
That's
to like
perfect.
listen to the crowd and like get a sense of like I can hear you, your feet scurrying against the canvas. So it's like one of those things. It's just a little thing that I picked up from Silas. Now you're only 4 years in.
Yeah.
Is there a match that you can look back on? Because I feel like Silas, me and Silas Young was like a defining match and a defining learning experience in my career. Are there is there a match that was the first time that you look back on and go like, whoa, that dude made me look better than I'm capable of being right now?
Yeah. So and it was with Albert. Like it was my so we had a singles match prior, but like for some reason I was so terrified.
Yeah.
And he didn't like actually hurt me, but he beat me up. Like he put me through the works, and he was like, no, this is how you gotta like wrestle. This is like legit. I was like, okay. So kind of messed up there, but then like a year later we had another match, and like right there I was like, wow, he made me look great. I understood a lot more things.
Yeah.
And like psychology of wrestling and just all that stuff, Cause like we did a match, like in the match, like we was like we're gonna work this body part and this, and we're going to come back to it at the end and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, okay. So, like, it just made me think a whole lot more. And I look back at that match all the time, like, just thinking about it. I was like, wow, he really made me open my eyes to a lot more, like, ideas and stuff in wrestling.
That's really cool.
So.
Are there notable promotions that you got to work for that you never thought you'd get a chance to work for over the years? Is there somewhere you're working now where you're like, you really look at this as like a great opportunity to further your career?
Yeah, so there's a few of them. Yeah, so when I was starting in Texas, Inspire Pro Wrestling was that's the deal in Texas.
Great place.
So when I started out, I was like, I want to be there. So for a year and a half straight, almost 2 years, I went to every single show and was helping tear down, set up there at noon, left at midnight, like all that stuff. Yeah, just just doing like the normal stuff. And I was like, and everybody like, there's people that's like, why am I not on? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, I'm gonna be on here one day.
Yep.
And then sooner or later I got on, but it wasn't as me. I had to do like a mask character for like 6 months, and then I was myself. So if you ever see a wrestler called the Great Depression in Inspire Pro, I did him. Yeah.
Okay, that's very deep.
Yeah, I was greatly depressed during that time.
Were you for real?
No,
Okay,
I was like doing that gimmick. Yeah, it sucked. But but then I met Shane Saber through those CWE tours.
That's your current boyfriend?
Yes, he is. Yeah. We are lovers. We are partners.
You are in a relationship.
Yeah,
that's
it
amazing.
is. It's non-monogamous. So we're so I met him and I was like, hey, I want to come back up there, because after that last tour, we were like, nah, we're not going. We can do better than this. So. He was like, yeah, see if you can mesh as Ethan Page, and then see if you can try to get on A1, and we can try to make a whole weekend out of it. I was like, okay, cool, because I've always heard about it, and I was like, this is awesome promotion. Yeah. So I did that, and then I flew out there in like February of last year. But what's crazy is 2 weeks prior to that, I dislocated my elbow.
Oh shit!
In Louisiana, some guy dropped me on my head, my arm just flung out, dislocated, and I was like, I'm not missing to wrestle at Alpha One.
Jeez.
So the doctor said, yeah, take like 2 months off. And I was like, you got it. I just found like some shitty knee, like elbow brace at like Target or something. I just wrapped it super tight. I wrestled for Super Kick that Friday. Nothing that Saturday. Then I wrestled in A1 that Sunday. And I was like, this is like amazing. You know what I mean? Like, this is cool. The elbow hurt like a mofo.
I'm sure.
Oh yeah. And then I came back in July and did that, did the Purge last year.
Yep.
And then I was like, you know what? I want to be up there. Like, I want to wrestle there all the time, and like other places in the Midwest and stuff. Cause like Texas, like it's not a black hole. It's just so hard to get places because it's 7 hours out of there. So once I started going there, like then Julian was like, hey, we can be like a full-time deal. So that was like a big moment for me personally. I was like, wow, I'm like full-time here, and I always thought about being here.
Yeah.
And then like other places where I did like one-offs, I wrestled for the Crash in Tijuana once last year in September.
How was that?
It was crazy. Like they had like this big like dome and everything. There was like 5,000 people in there.
Holy crap.
And then me and Albert were on that show, and then I did like a 6-man tag, and I just like walked out. I was like, this is like surreal. Like at that moment, I was like, I knew like confidence-wise, I was like, okay, I could be in these type of places.
Absolutely.
You know. So like it's like places like that. It's kind of like I sit back and I was like, okay, like that was cool, and I know I can like be there and do that stuff.
Yeah, and sometimes you like need those moments of reassurance.
Of course,
that keep you
yeah.
going, you know what I'm saying? Like I feel like I was just talking about it to a kid earlier, where it's like, personally and professionally, and when I've been at some of my lowest life moments, it's like sometimes it's just a matter of waiting, because like for some reason, and I feel like you're the same way. Like this passion for wrestling, I can't quit. And it keeps me going. And it's like if you hang on long enough, you know,
something's gonna happen.
Something's gonna happen, and it always seems like when I'm at the lowest, the next thing that happens is that something better like comes up and like makes everything worth it. Where it's like it's a reminder of like, Jesus, this is why I do this.
For sure, yeah.
You know,
I love it.
Alpha One has given you some incredible opportunities, and it's gotten. I've gotten the opportunity to get to know you.
Yeah,
and,
that's great. Yeah,
I'm very thankful for that. Tonight you're making your debut for Freelance.
Yeah, on their 50th show, right? It's Freelance's
deal.
50th show. I'm excited. I make my debut there for here actually tonight, and I'm very looking forward to it. I've always wanted to like wrestle here. Yeah. So
Matt Nick's the promoter. He's a hell of a guy.
He's a good dude. Yeah, he's a good dude, and he gave me the opportunity. So he saw me wrestle for the Super Kicked versus Freelance show in Toronto last week.
Okay.
And then he hit me up. He was like, hey, you know, we can get you on here. So I was like, okay,
That's
awesome. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think, like, in general, like, I wish we could talk longer, but it's like it's getting close to showtime.
Yeah.
It's like
we can do a part 2 Sunday.
We could do a part 2 for sure. I mean, I'm down for part 2 and 3 and 4. I do want to mention Shane Saber is a good man. I'm glad you brought him up.
He's a very good man. Faithful man.
He will never leave you.
He won't leave me.
Once he commits to you, he is you and only you.
Yeah, only me. I can mess around, though.
But, like, I look at you in the same vein that I've looked at over the past couple of years, Kurt Stallion.
Yeah.
Kurt Stallion is a guy that when I first started seeing him on shows, just looking at him and his demeanor, I thought to myself, boy, I think I would hate this guy, right?
Yeah.
But because Kurt just kind of has that look, right?
I thought I hated him too before I actually got to know him.
I feel like every guy I tell, like, they're like, yeah, when I first saw Kurt, I thought I would hate him. And then, like, I was in a car with him for just like an hour, and instant connection with him.
Yeah.
And I got to hear his story too, and how far that he had been traveling for shows, and like the hours that he was putting in, and it was like such incredible dedication that I definitely didn't put in those miles or those hours when I started. I put in some miles, but I've never had a longer than I think 12 or 13 hour drive. So like, I really commend you guys. So like,
thank you.
And I look at where Kurt is right now with his opportunity with Evolve and the things that it could lead to for him, and knowing that like he was just randomly sleeping in his car and like just so cliche, but the dues that he was paying.
Yeah.
I just know that like by the type of person you are and like how committed you are to this craft, like big things are going to be in your future.
Thank you, Greg.
And I guess we'll end this by, guess the typical thing on podcasts is where can people find you, Kody?
Oh, of course. Yeah. So you can
Social
find
media.
me on Instagram at, you ready for this? So it's _Codester, and that's KODSTER.
Ooh, clever pun.
Very clever. And then on Twitter, you can find me at Kody Lane.
Gotcha.
And that's all I got.
No Facebook?
Yeah, I got Facebook. I have a Kody Lane page on there, but I'm not as active on there. I feel like Instagram, Twitter's more of that.
I agree. Facebook is kind of like for older people now.
Yeah.
And also the algorithm is like weird. I feel like Facebook is very dependent on you buying advertisement now.
Yes, very.
It's
and
weird.
And you can find me on Snapchat. Like I'm on, like I had made it when I was like a teenager, like Kody STK, and the STK stands for like Skills That Kills.
Okay.
So I thought that was a funny
Very
rhyme. So yeah, there you go. You can find me on there too.
Very creative. So everybody give Kody a follow on social media. Check out what he's doing, and you won't regret it because his star is on the rise. He's going to be doing some big things in independent professional wrestling and beyond. Thanks, Kody.
Thank you, Greg.
Everyone knows that I love good vintage wrestling merch. But when I want the best of the best when it comes to finding vintage wrestling memorabilia, I go to the Savage Stash. The Savage Stash is your wheeler and dealer for the best in vintage wrestling shirts, hats, jackets, accessories, and everything in between. I've picked up some of my all-time favorite vintage items from the Savage Stash, and that's including the original Hunter Hearst Helmsley How to Be a Snob tee from 1995, and I've never seen that anywhere else online. And just last year, I picked up a vintage 1996 WWF Royal Rumble tee that I gifted to Johnny Gargano for his birthday. It was in mint condition, and I'm telling you, Johnny could not have been happier when he opened that up, because I know the Royal Rumble in 96 meant a lot to him with Shawn Michaels winning and everything. I've also got a wide variety of fanny packs from the Savage Stash over the years, including a rare WWF Championship fanny pack from 1991, and of course, their ultra stylish green and purple 3-pocket Savage Stash fanny pack that I use to store all of my goodies when I'm on the road. Right now on SavageStash.com, they're selling exclusive Intercontinental Championship pins with interchangeable white and black straps. You can get black or white strap alone for $10, the black or the white strap with the plate for $20, or you can get both straps and the plate for just $30. That's right, $30. And if you're buying this pin or any other fanny packs, hats, or vintage merch at thesavagestash.com, you can use promo code IRON, I-R-O-N, at checkout to save 10% on your order. That's right, it's an exclusive offer to listeners of Iron on Wrestling. If you go to thesavagestash.com and buy any items at all and use the promo code IRON, the Savage Stash will take 10% off your entire order. To see all of their current or past items, go to www.thesavagestash.com, follow them at The Savage Stash on Twitter or Instagram, and like them on Facebook at The Savage Stash. Hey, what are you waiting for? If you're looking for the best in vintage merch, go to the place that can't be topped. Check out the Savage Stash, the absolute cream of the crop. Well, that's it for this week, the episode with Kody Lane. And like I said, the kid's got a hell of a story. He's someone you definitely have to keep your eye out for. If you're not following Kody Lane, you should be. He's on Twitter at Kody1Lane. That's Kody, number 1, Lane. He's also on Instagram at @theroller_Codester. That's Codester with a Kodster. Give him a follow. Check out his stuff. He's a good kid. He's going to blow up real quick. That's it for this week. Next week, we're going to be back. Aaron will be back on the show. I don't know where he was at today. Hopefully, we'll be back next week. Maybe he's interrupting someone else. Good for him. But, you know, in a way, I do kind of miss Aaron. It's weird. I miss his smile. I miss his scent. I miss his touch. I miss his taste. See, I'm keeping up with the creepy thing of the show. You know, it is the Halloween season after all. But anyways, next week, we got a nice special episode. Special guest will be Gentleman Jervis. He's a Chikara standout over the years. He's been all over the independent scene. He's working a lot of the time in the California area these days, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. I got a chance to spend some time with him in the Los Angeles area a few weeks back, and I got a great interview with him that, you know, he's a fun-loving guy. He's a happy guy. He wants to spread love and positivity, and the one thing that we really focus on this episode next week is the importance of mental health, and I think it's a cool episode, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it. It's a little bit different, a little bit more serious than most of our episodes, and yeah, it's going to be one to listen to for sure. With that being said, while I'm here alone without Aaron this week, I just want to say thank you to everyone that's been downloading the podcast so far. Truly, from the bottom of my heart, it means a lot to me. You know, this podcast thing was something that I was very unsure of at first, but, you know, it's I feel like it's going strong, and I been getting a lot of positive feedback. Been getting a lot of downloads and a lot of fan support. Great feedback from everybody. Thank you guys so much for giving a listen to the show. And obviously, you've downloaded this episode. If you don't know already, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. That's including iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, Pandora, all the major podcast sites. If you don't download your podcasts on some website, you could probably just go to the youtube.com. That's youtube.com, not the. There's no the in it. I just like to say the YouTube because it's, you know, it's funnier that way. You can find full episodes on YouTube as well as clips. And, of course, if you haven't listened already, last week we had Stone Cold Steve Austin on the podcast. You can watch the full video interview with Steve on our YouTube account. It's about 20 minutes in length, and I think you'll really enjoy it. It's the most candid I've ever seen Stone Cold in an interview, and it just happens to be with me. So make sure if you download on iTunes, you give us a 5-star review, you subscribe, You'll get the podcast as soon as it downloads. And subscribe to the YouTube. Get all that exclusive content. And with that being said, I guess we're out of time. So hopefully you'll come back next week. We got good stuff coming next week, the week after that. It's going to be great. Thanks so much, guys. What inspires me? You inspire me. See you next week. Peace out.